Welcome back to Untold Revenge Files. Today, the story you're about to hear takes place in Maplewood, Ohio, just outside Columbus. My name is Danielle Hartwell. I'm 29 years old, and I found out exactly what my family thought of me through a Facebook post that got 3,000 likes in 48 hours. Let me take you back to how I ended up there. I moved into my grandmother's house when I was 22. Grandma Lorraine passed away that spring, and in her will, she left me the house, the 4-bedroom colonial she'd lived in for 40 years. It was the only thing of real value she had, and she gave it to me. Not to my parents, not to my older sister Morgan, to me. At the time, I didn't fully understand what that meant. My parents, Richard and Carol, had already been living there for 3 years, helping Grandma during her illness. Morgan had moved back in after her divorce. When the will was read, my father's face went pale. My mother's jaw tightened. Morgan laughed nervously and said, "Well, that's going to be awkward." But here's the thing. Grandma Lorraine had included a provision. She wrote that my parents and Morgan could continue living in the home as long as I allowed it. She trusted me to be fair. She trusted me to be kind. So I was. I moved in too. I didn't charge them rent at first. When I finally did, it was $400 a month total, split between the 3 of them, well below market rate for the area. I paid the property taxes, I paid the homeowner's insurance, I kept the utilities in my name and covered them when they forgot to contribute. I did this for 7 years. And somehow, over those 7 years, I became the problem. It started small. Morgan would make comments about how I was lucky to have inherited something I didn't earn. My mother would sigh heavily whenever I bought something new, even if it was just groceries. My father would remind me, often, that he'd been the one to maintain the house while Grandma was alive, as if that entitled him to it. But the worst part? They told people I was the freeloader. At family gatherings, Morgan would joke about how I still lived at home, while she conveniently left out that she lived there too. My mother would shake her head and say things like, "We keep hoping Danielle will get on her feet." My father once told his coworker that they let me stay because family is family. I heard these things. I absorbed them. And for years, I said nothing. I was building something quietly. While they saw me working from my laptop in the living room and assumed I was playing on the internet, I was actually running a freelance copywriting business. Conversion copy, sales funnels, email sequences. By year 5, I was making more than both my parents combined. By year 7, I had over $90,000 saved. I never told them. Before I tell you exactly what Morgan did next, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I'm really curious to see how far this story will travel. On March 12th, I moved out. I didn't announce it. I didn't argue. I packed my things over the course of 2 weeks while everyone was at work, rented a small apartment across town, and left a simple note on the kitchen counter. I've decided to get my own place. I'll be in touch about the house soon. That evening, my phone buzzed. Morgan had posted a photo of my empty bedroom. The caption read, "Finally, the freeloader is gone. Party popper. Time to turn this into a home office. #blessed, #family peace." 300 likes in the first hour. I scrolled through the comments, my chest tightening with every word. My mother had commented, "Best news we've had in years. Tears of joy." My father had written, "About time she figured it out." My aunt had added, "Always knew that girl was using you all. Good riddance." My cousin, people I barely spoke to, strangers who knew nothing about me, all of them piling on, laughing, celebrating. 3,000 likes by the end of the second day. I sat in my new apartment, on a mattress on the floor because my furniture hadn't arrived yet, and I read every single comment. I screenshot every single one. I saved the post. I noted who liked it. I documented the timestamps. My hands weren't shaking from sadness. they were steady, calm. Because here's what none of them knew. That house they were so happy to have back, it was still legally mine. The deed was in my name. The property taxes came to my address. Every single document that mattered had my signature on it. For 7 years, I had let them pretend it was theirs. I had let them treat me like a guest in my own home. I had let them call me a burden while I literally paid to keep a roof over their heads. No more. I closed my laptop, set my phone face down on the floor, and stared at the ceiling of my empty apartment. I had no idea that what I was about to do next would expose the truth to everyone who had clicked like on that post and completely unravel the life my family had built on my silence. The first week was the hardest. I watched the post continue to gain traction. More comments, more laughing emojis, more people congratulating my family on being free of me. Someone shared it to a local community group with the caption, "Parents finally kicking out adult children who won't leave. We love to see it." I got messages from distant relatives asking if I was okay, in that tone that really meant they were fishing for gossip. One aunt texted, "Honey, maybe this is a wake-up call. You can't rely on family forever." I didn't respond to any of them. Morgan tried calling me twice. I let it ring. She left a voicemail that was almost impressive in its audacity. "Hey, Danny, just checking in. Mom mentioned you seemed upset when you left. No hard feelings, right? We're just glad you're finally doing your own thing. Call me back." No hard feelings. I played that voicemail 3 times, memorizing her tone. Light, casual, as if she hadn't just publicly humiliated me to thousands of people, as if our mother hadn't laughed in the comments, as if any of this was normal. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and a legal pad beside me. I pulled up the deed to the house. My name, clear as day. I pulled up 7 years of bank statements showing every payment I'd made, property taxes, insurance, utilities, repairs. I pulled up the original provision from Grandma Lorraine's will. Then, I pulled up Morgan's Facebook post and screenshot it one more time. My friend Elena called that night. She was the only person outside my family who knew the full situation, the ownership, the payments, the way they treated me. "I saw the post," she said quietly. "Danielle, I am so sorry." I told her everything, the comments, the likes, the voicemails. Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." "Do you want my honest opinion?" "Always." "You've been asking yourself the wrong question for 7 years. You keep asking, how do I keep the peace? But peace was never being offered to you. They were at war with you this whole time. You just didn't know it." Her words hit me like cold water. "Would you let a stranger treat you this way?" she continued. "Would you let a landlord call you a freeloader while you paid their mortgage? Would you let a coworker publicly mock you and then ask if there were no hard feelings? No. Then why accept it from them?" I didn't have an answer. Not a good one. Just the tired weight of the word family and all the guilt that came with it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my table until 3 in the morning, writing out everything. Not a letter, just thoughts. All the moments I'd swallowed, all the insults I'd pretended not to hear, all the times I'd reminded myself that they were family, and family was supposed to be hard. By sunrise, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to fight them. I wasn't going to yell or post something petty in response. I wasn't going to stoop to their level. I was going to handle this the way Grandma Lorraine would have wanted, quietly, properly, and with receipts. That Monday, I contacted a real estate attorney. I explained the situation. I owned the property, 3 adults were living there without a formal lease, and I wanted to either formalize the arrangement or begin the process of asking them to leave. The attorney, a calm woman named Patricia, reviewed my documents and nodded slowly. "You have options," she said. "You can offer them a formal lease agreement at fair market rent. If they decline or fail to comply, you can proceed with proper notice to vacate. Everything needs to be in writing. Everything needs to be documented. And if they refuse, then we go through the legal process. It takes time, but the law is on your side. This is your property." I nodded. "Let's start with the lease offer. I want to give them a chance to do this the right way." 1 week after Morgan's post, I sent a certified letter to the house. It was calm, professional. It outlined 2 options: sign a month-to-month lease at fair market rent, $1,800 total, and transfer all utilities into their names within 30 days, or vacate the property within 60 days. I included a copy of the deed. I included a copy of Grandma's will. The next morning, I woke up with a pit in my stomach, but also something else, something unfamiliar. Clarity. For the first time in 7 years, I wasn't hoping they would see my value. I wasn't waiting for an apology that was never coming. I was done being the quiet one. It was time to be the honest one. The response was immediate. My mother called first, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Danielle, what is this? Some kind of joke?" I stayed calm. "It's not a joke. Those are your options. You can't just kick us out of our own home." "It's not your home, Mom. It never was." She hung up on me. My father sent a text that was 4 paragraphs of guilt and accusations. He called me ungrateful, selfish, and heartless. He reminded me of everything he'd done for Grandma. He said I was destroying the family over a piece of paper. Morgan's response was the most predictable. She posted again, this time a vague, passive-aggressive message. "Some people really show their true colors when money is involved. Blood means nothing to some. Pray for my family during this difficult time." Folded hands. Hundreds of comments rolled in, all sympathizing with her. But I stayed silent online. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue. I waited. Weeks passed. They didn't sign the lease. They didn't pay rent. They didn't transfer the utilities. Instead, they ignored every letter, convinced I would eventually fold, that I'd come crawling back, that I'd remember my place. After 30 days of no response, I posted one thing, just one, a calm, carefully worded clarification. No insults, no accusations, just facts. I explained that the house had been left to me by my grandmother 7 years ago. I attached a redacted image of the deed. I explained that I had been paying property taxes and insurance the entire time. I attached partial bank statements showing consistent payments. I mentioned that I had offered my family a formal lease at a fair rate, and they had declined. Then I attached a screenshot of Morgan's original post. Finally, the freeloader is gone. I ended with, "I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because the truth deserves to exist somewhere. I wish my family well. I will not be commenting further." The response was unlike anything I expected. Within hours, people who had liked the original post started commenting apologies. I had no idea. This is insane. Wait, she owned the house? Former classmates reached out privately. Strangers messaged me words of support. The narrative flipped so fast that Morgan deleted her original post, but it was too late. People had already saved it. Meanwhile, my family's situation deteriorated. They still refused to sign the lease. So I did what I said I would. I proceeded through the legal process. I canceled the utilities that were in my name and gave them written notice. I filed the proper paperwork. I documented everything. Have you ever watched someone's confidence collapse in slow motion? That's what happened to my family over the next 2 months. My father, who had been so certain I would back down, started calling with a different tone, less demanding. more desperate. Danielle, please, let's talk about this. I've said everything I need to say in writing. My attorney can answer any questions. My mother sent me a long email about how Grandma would be ashamed of what I was doing. I didn't respond. Morgan tried a new tactic. She reached out to mutual friends, trying to get them to intervene. Most of them had already seen my post. Most of them refused. The court date came 3 months after I'd sent the original certified letter. My documentation was flawless. 7 years of records, every payment, every letter, every attempt to resolve things fairly. The judge reviewed everything and ruled in my favor. My family was given 30 days to vacate. I wasn't in the courtroom when they got the news. I was at my apartment, working on a project for a client who paid me more for one sales funnel than my family had paid me in 7 years of rent. That evening, Alina called. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Tired, but clear. Not vindicated? Maybe a little, but mostly just done. I wondered if they would finally understand, if being forced out would make them reflect on what they'd done, how they'd treated me, what they'd said, who they'd become. But I knew better than to count on that. It's been over a year now since my family moved out of the house. I sold it. I didn't want to be a landlord. I didn't want the memories. I didn't want the constant reminder of everything that had happened there. The sale closed quickly, and I put the money into my business, my savings, and my future. I also started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I needed help unpacking everything. The years of being diminished, the internalized shame, the voice in my head that still sometimes whispered, maybe you were the problem. My therapist helped me understand something important. You can grieve a family you never really had. You can mourn the parents who should have protected you, the sister who should have supported you. That grief is real, even if the people are still alive. My family scattered after the eviction. My parents moved into a rental across town. Morgan stayed with a friend for a while before finding her own place. Their social standing took a hit. Too many people had seen the truth. Too many people remembered what they'd said. But the hardest part came 6 months after the house sold. My mother reached out. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement, a request. "Danielle, I know we've had our differences, but your father's been having health issues. The medical bills are piling up. We could really use some help. You're doing so well now, and family is family, right?" I stared at that message for an hour. There was a time when I would have sent money immediately, when I would have swallowed my hurt and convinced myself that this was what good daughters did, that forgiveness meant pretending nothing had happened, that love meant letting people use you. But I'm not that person anymore. I typed my response carefully. "I'm sorry to hear about Dad's health. I hope he recovers fully. I'm not in a position to provide financial support, but I know there are resources available through the hospital's billing department. I wish you both well." Then I blocked her number. Morgan tried next. Her approach was different. She went for reconciliation, not money. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she wrote. "I know I wasn't always the best sister. Maybe we could get coffee sometime? Start fresh?" I read it twice. Then I thought about the post, the comments, the laughing emojis, the voicemail asking if there were no hard feelings while the humiliation was still trending. I wrote back, "I appreciate you reaching out. I'm not interested in rebuilding right now, but I wish you peace." She responded with a long message about how I was holding a grudge and refusing to move on. I didn't reply. So after everything you've heard, if you were standing where I am now, with family members who publicly humiliated you, asking for money and reconciliation, would you give in and call it forgiveness? Or would you choose freedom and call it self-respect? Here's what I've learned. My mother still has my father. Morgan still has friends. They have options. They have resources. I didn't take everything from them. I just stopped letting them take everything from me. And that's the difference. I built a life without their approval. My business grew. I bought my own place. Smaller than the house, but it's mine in every way that matters. I have friends who celebrate my wins instead of resenting them. I have peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's permission. Some days, I still feel the old guilt creeping in. The voice that says family should come first. The weight of expectations I never agreed to carry. But then I remember Grandma Lorraine. She saw something in me that the rest of them missed. She trusted me to be fair and kind, and I was for 7 years. But she also trusted me to know when enough was enough. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is stop performing love for people who never offered it back. I don't hate my family, I don't wish them harm, but I also don't owe them access to my life just because we share DNA. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the loudest form of self-respect. And family doesn't excuse cruelty, it makes cruelty worse. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. You are allowed to leave situations that hurt you. You are allowed to stop being the bigger person when bigger just means smaller. You are allowed to choose yourself, even when everyone around you says that's selfish. It's not selfish. It's survival. And sometimes it's the only path to peace. And that's Danielle's story. Look, I know some of you are sitting there right now thinking about your own situation. Maybe you've got a family member who treats you like Danielle was treated. Maybe you've been called the difficult one for having standards. Maybe you're still waiting for an apology that's probably never coming. If that's you, I see you. And I hope Danielle's story reminded you that walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to set a boundary with family that they made you feel guilty for? I read every single comment, and honestly, your stories hit just as hard as the ones we share here. If this one got to you, smash that like button. It really does help more people find these stories. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We've got new stories every week, and trust me, the next one, it's gonna have you yelling at your screen. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember, you don't owe anyone a seat at your table just because they're family. You built that table. You decide who sits there. See you soon.